Hey, and welcome to the Solid Verbal. Now would be a perfect time to consider subscribing. Yeah, that little subscribe button for year-round premium college football content. That's it. Here's the video. Enjoy. Subscribe.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal. Boys and girls, my name is Ty Hildenbrandt. That fine gentleman over there, the one, the only, always the incomparable Dan Rubenstein. Sir, it is week 9. It is week 9. It is week 9. How are you?
I'm good. You told me that we're going fast today, so I'm just going to run through my picks right now. I've got Oregon minus 17. I've got Illinois minus 7.5. I've got Florida. No, I'm good. As always, it's very important to me. Solid Verbal, as always, driven by our friends at Geico. See?
Yes.
Now you don't have to do it.
I don't have to do it now.
It's very important to me to do my best to nail the weekly nickname. Perhaps more than studying injury reports or something like that. Injury reports are tricky. Coaches always say day-to-day, game-time decision. But I actually was locked in on one, and then in the shower, I said, you know what? No. I had found a sound and everything, and I said, you know what? No. I had said, because there were so many home dogs, I said, well, let's just name it after the home dog of the show, Samoyed Saturday, right?
We've done that before, yeah.
I know we have.
Yeah.
Big, fluffy lines for home dogs, howling, ow. But like, I'm not going to go back on our good friends at Yako's, clearly not a sponsor and just getting free publicity from us. So I was thinking about the matchups where we have all of these, there's pseudo rivalries where teams are kind of deep dogs, sometimes at home, sometimes on the road. You look at Florida, Georgia, and Michigan State. And for some of these teams, it could seem like, well, I don't know, we've had some struggles early on the first half of the season. I don't know how we're going to bring it against Georgia or against Michigan or even some like non-rivalries like TCU West Virginia, right? There's some rough going for a lot of these teams as underdogs. And then I said to myself, what better time than now? With a bright light, with a big stage, it's Halloween weekend, which is always an incredible time for college football. What better time than now to channel your inner Channing Tatum and step up?
I'm fighting for something that's real for the first time in my life.
Come on, it's Step Up Saturday. Step up.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. For a great number of teams, though, this weekend, as you said, it is a Step Up Saturday. The task feels insurmountable, whether it's Penn State or Kentucky or Michigan State or Florida, even West Virginia, even Arizona. What the hell? We'll throw them in there. These are intimidating opponents with a ton of firepower, all of them destined to soar to the heights of the sport, right? Mm-hmm. What would happen if we saw an unlikely upset in week 9, Dan? What would happen? What would happen?
It would be another college football season?
What would happen if one of those top teams went down? However improbable it may sound.
Yeah.
It would change the world. It would blow my mind. Blow your mind. Blow everybody's mind.
Okay. I'm trying to sell this.
It is Slay the Dragon Saturday. That's a dragon. That's a very... Listen to that guy.
That's
you
not
don't
bad.
Mess with that dragon.
Look, if you give people the choice between dragons and Channing Tatum, I still think my guy Channing is coming out on top. But we'll let the people decide. As always, it's, by the way, 6 step-up movies. 6 of them.
They made 6 of those?
There's Step Up, obviously, to the streets. Step Up All In, Step Up Revolution. There's a Step Up China, not super well reviewed.
No.
But a combined $651 million or something.
Good hell.
That the Step Up franchise has accumulated.
The Step Up China is, that one. That's like Leprechaun in space. But nonetheless, wow, 6 of them. Okay.
6.
Welcome back to the show, boys and girls. You know our sponsor. If you want to come see us live in Atlanta, solidverballive.com is where you can go. If you like the show, if you've made it this far, why not consider subscribing or following? Because we put out a bunch of shows during the college football season. That's what we do here at the Solid Verbal College Football Podcast. And last but certainly not least, verballers.com is where you can go to get access to bonus features. Perhaps some of the people who are watching this show live, as many do whenever we put a new show together, can chime in the chat and let us know whether they prefer the Step Up Saturday, Slay the Dragon Saturday, or give us your own S word for some means of alliteration. Why not? We are open-minded here on the show.
Can I be the ombuds, Dan, for just one real quick second here? Double up the N at the end of Atlanta. They'll know.
Atlanta.
They'll know you're
Atlanta.
an outsider when you go that second T. Like same thing would happen with Toronto. It's not Toronto. It's
Toronto.
It's Toronto.
I like it.
That's
I
it.
like it. I like it. All right. So look, week 9, man. Week 9 is loaded. Week 9's a really good week of games. It is not week 7, which there was no wiggle room whatsoever. It's not even week 8, which I think was a little bit more packed to the gills.
Mm-hmm.
It's more comfortable. It's more normal. You don't have to be a college football mutant to enjoy the vibe of week 9. Fair?
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
It's a great week. I think the move here is an early dinner. If I'm
Early
being real,
dinner.
if you're looking for a window to go out and, be amongst the people, you got to do something. You got to try and give back to your loving spouse who has so dutifully supported your college football habit thus far.
Mm-hmm.
An early dinner would be nice. Nothing fancy. Let's not get.
So you're seeing the possibility of the afternoon games being over early third quarter. Like there's the runaway potential there.
Yeah.
Get on, your fridge situation, get on your delivery app of choice, get on your takeout order. I always prefer calling and getting the food directly from the person if possible, rather than using one of the apps. But maybe like a 5:47 dinner.
Be home like 8:39.
Yeah.
Because I think some of the nightcaps could make for interesting TV down the stretch.
Okay.
We'll get into that here as we get into our week 9 picks. But I think that's the move, Dan. That's the move.
I think that's smart.
Let's dive in.
Dan, time, help. I need picks of the week.
Early games. Let's start at high noon, Dan.
Let's.
12 p.m. on the Fox network. I believe this is a Gus game, Gus and Joel Klatt.
Does it involve Ohio State or Michigan?
It does involve Ohio State.
Oh, here's my surprise face.
Lucky guess. Lucky guess. Ohio State minus 16 on the road at Penn State. Ooh, okay. 16, that is an enormous line in a game like this. You got to go back to 2016 to find the last time Penn State won. You got to go all the way back to 2009 to find the last time the Buckeyes won by a margin like this in State College. I think there are two very simplistic ways of looking at this football game.
Well, considering there are two hosts, I think we've got them.
Yeah, well, that's true as well.
Yeah.
The first is that people are going to say Penn State's just overrated.
Mm-hmm.
They're overrated. Look at the Michigan game. They got embarrassed. Ohio State is just as good, if not better, as Michigan. This is going to be a runaway train. It's the best offense in the country. Runaway train.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first. The second is, Ohio State hasn't played a competent offense all year, Dan. They haven't played a competent offense all year. They're on the road in Happy Valley.
Who is, by the way, the best offense Ohio State has played? Because they don't have a top 40 per SP plus offense on the schedule thus far. Who's the best one?
I'm saying it's going to be Penn State.
Sure.
Thus far, beyond Penn State, yeah. I mean, is it Wisconsin? Is it
the answer is Michigan
State?
State, and that was not pretty. Yeah.
Right. So they haven't played a competent offense all year. They're on the road in Happy Valley. By the way, if you've never been to a big game in Happy Valley, it's going to be loud. This is going to be like a rock concert.
Yeah.
Everybody will be jazzed up for this matchup. So tough place to play. They're going to win, but the cover's 16 in Beaver Stadium. Those are the two things that you're going to hear people saying all week. Which side of the fence are you on, if at all, Dan?
In this matchup? In terms of my pick or in terms of in the conversation around Ohio State?
In terms of those two arguments that you will hear this week, are you leaning more Penn State? Are you leaning more Ohio State?
I'm leaning more on it is a good point that Ohio State has not played an offense that has the ability, not saying Penn State always has, but has the ability to challenge teams and put teams and defenses in binds. So I have Penn State here to cover this spread. And I'm so confident in this, Ty. Get that itchy finger ready. Get it ready. Pick of the week. Lock of the week.
Lock of the week.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
Here's my justification. Penn State's offense is not altogether dependable. And we saw what their defense was or really was not able to do against Michigan, and that they were not able to adjust to Michigan's bully ball strategy. I don't trust that we've seen Ohio State respond to any and all problems. And that to me is the issue and I guess, is this not a whiteout technically?
Technically not a whiteout.
Technically not a whiteout. It's going to be, especially for an early game, as loud as any early Penn State game has been in recent history. And so I think with that juice, I think coming off of Iowa, and I don't think it's a full body blow theory, but that offense was, within the context of what we're used to seeing from Ohio State, relatively stymied by a very good Iowa defense. So I think the opportunity is there for Penn State, clearly the most talented complete team, because I saw what Notre Dame fielded on offense and has since. I think Penn State is a more talented offense at this moment because of the playmakers they have at receiver. I am in on Penn State. This game is always a little bit sneaky close, right, Ty? I'm sure you're about to make that point. And maybe on game day, maybe on Big Noon, Big Ten, they're going to say, this one's going to be closer than the experts are saying. Guess what, Ty? I'm the expert. It's going to be close. Penn State covers this spread. Boom.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to be up early and drinking at 6 a.m. That's just the way this is going to go.
They are in July too, but yeah.
They are in July too, but especially now that they have a reason to do so. I may be biased, but I don't think Penn State is as bad as it looked against Michigan. That is not to imply that the loss to Michigan was any kind of fluke. I think far from it. But that game came off the swivel as around the time Penn State's defense started to get tired in the second half.
Yeah.
Remember, Michigan had the ball in that game for 42 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
42 minutes. They wore Penn State down to a nub with that rushing attack. It finally broke open midway through like the third quarter, I want to say. So it is not wrong in your head to think of that game like some sort of piñata where Michigan just kept beating, and suddenly pop. That's when it all sort of went to hell for Penn State. It would also be easy to say, well, can Ohio State just do the same thing Michigan did? Right? Seems like a fair point. They've got the pieces to do it, but that sort of ignores the way that Ohio State plays. That ignores their identity as a whole, which is really geared more around the passing assault.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Trey Henderson, I think Maya Williams, whoever can put up numbers against Penn State's defense, they will put up numbers against Penn State's run defense because Penn State's run defense is not very good. All I'm saying is that Ohio State, though the best offense in the country, in my view, is not a random shapeshifter. They're not just suddenly, poof, going to transform into this Michigan ground assault. It's not who they are.
Well, the second half of the Notre Dame game, they kind of were, right? They started Notre Dame took away the pass, and Ohio State really started hammering Notre Dame successfully on the ground.
All I'm saying is their identity is still much more of a pass-first team as opposed to a team that is going to be a Michigan and run it for 42 minutes. That is not who Ohio State is. That's not who they will be in this game either. They will pass more than Michigan did. And in terms of the point spread, weirdly, I think that works in Penn State's favor because Penn State actually can play the pass. I think Penn State will be feisty. The offense, as you said, rightfully is not without its flaws, but I think they're going to score on Ohio State. I think there will be an adjustment period for a bit as the Buckeyes settle in against a better opponent, probably easily the best opponent they've faced all season long. I expect them to win outright, but I agree with you. I'm not making it a lock of the week, but I think it's like 31-21 in favor of Ohio State.
Does anybody do anything as consistently successful as James Franklin loses barely to Ohio State
Late game
in
James.
a myriad of ways?
Late game James. It's still a thing, and it will be a thing, probably.
You remember when JT Barrett randomly became Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter of the game a few years ago? I was like, JT Barrett finished 15 of 16 for 286 yards. And they lost by 1 because JT Barrett turned into a Hall of Fame quarterback in that moment. So, yes, there are a number of ways in which James Franklin and Penn State have barely lost. You remember the call at the end of the game on, was it 4th and short? They called just sort of an inside zone, and Ohio State snuffed it out. So, yeah, that's what James Franklin does. He loses very close to Ohio State.
I am convinced that Penn State is not as bad as they looked against Michigan.
Okay.
I am also convinced that Ohio State against a more competent offense is a wrinkle we have not seen. And I could see it taking them a little bit of time to adjust, to figure it out.
Who's the star for Penn State in this game? Then you're like, oh, man, that guy is for real. Look what he just did against Ohio State.
I would like
Joey
to
Porter
see them,
Jr.?
I would like to see them use more of Nick Singleton out of the backfield. I would like to believe that they can get some kind of push up front, but the running game, though, try as they might to make it more of a thing, still remains inconsistent to me. It still is not something that you could really hang your hat on and trust. So I think if they can find ways to get Singleton the ball, Ohio State knows that they want to do that.
Right.
I think he could be a real difference maker. They have enough weapons out wide. I think, especially with the way they've used the tight end, it provided Sean Clifford can stay upright and healthy and doesn't do any kind of dumb things back there with his decision making. I think they're going to be able to move the ball in this team. It's just a function of
You think
how
Penn
long
State's going to move it on Ohio State?
I do.
I don't know, man. They've gotten, especially up front, those linebackers are actually good now.
I know. I think they'll move it. I think they'll move it. But 31-21 is my final.
I think it's going to be close at halftime, and then the Penn State defense, or excuse me, the Penn State offense really struggles in the second half. I think you get that Jim Knowles second half. That's all.
12 o'clock ESPN. It is TCU minus 7 points on the road at West Virginia.
Yeah.
There has been some sharp better action on West Virginia. The pros that do this, that pay the bills with this, are going in on West Virginia. Now, this has come down. I saw it at 7.5 when we started putting our preview together. It's come down to 7. Going to Morgantown's not easy. I suspect that's got something to do with it. Maybe the thought is that this could also be a trap game of sorts for TCU.
What time is kickoff? What time is
12
kickoff?
o'clock. 12 o'clock. Yeah.
That's big ear energy. Continue.
Yeah, what we know here is that West Virginia is 3-4. Their wins are over Towson, Virginia Tech, and Baylor.
Yeah.
And then there was the close loss week 1 against Pitt. Baylor clearly the best win there, though. Like far and away the best win. The Bears sort of beat themselves, though, more than West Virginia did. They were
beat up too. Yeah.
They were beat up. That was a game where they shot themselves in the foot. They turned it over 4 times, something like that. Inconsistency has been the story this year for West Virginia. It is clear in moments that they show flashes. What is also clear is that they can't do it consistently, and that is worrying. That's why they're 3-4, among other things. I think there is a clear advantage in this game for TCU.
Yeah.
If only because their offense is built so much around big plays, and West Virginia thematically gives them out like Halloween candy. That is a problem.
Good. Very on calendar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
TCU is also not the kind of team that's going to beat itself like Baylor did. They're not doing it with turnovers. They're not doing it with penalties. Strikingly, it's a very disciplined team for a team with a new coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same guys as last year.
Yeah.
Which is just blows my mind. But clearly, Sonny Dykes has come in and he has instilled a sense of discipline, a sense of organization in a way that the previous era was not under Gary Patterson, at least towards the end. So
sure,
I think there's a lot working for TCU here.
All of these points are right. Now, a couple of notes on TCU. The slow starts are not great. Morgantown at noon, that's going to be a worked up crowd, even though it's been a disappointing year. By the way, when you look at West Virginia's schedule, of the FBS teams they've played, Virginia Tech is the worst. Towson, obviously not an FBS team. They've only played pretty good teams this year. They haven't had a week to play just like the 83rd best team, just a subpar team to sort of get their bearings and have that net crack moment. And so while their record isn't good, while their defense probably isn't good, they've played nothing basically but pretty good teams. And so it gives us a sense of who West Virginia actually is, but it also gives us a lack of sense of what they can be because they haven't been able to work out their issues in the way that other teams have been or play, their second, third string guys more because they were up 30 late in the game or something. Right. So it worries me that JT Daniels has not gotten into a consistent rhythm. It worries me when CJ Donaldson is out injured, but now I think he's back. And so they do have that game changer on offense. It gets back to the Underthink Express. Like, how many points does it take to beat TCU?
Yeah,
probably 31 to 37 points. And where's that coming from? If the receivers are dropping too many balls, if the offensive line can't get its act together, where are those points coming from? They scored it against Baylor. You're absolutely right. But consistently scoring those points, the way they performed last week against Texas Tech, my heart says West Virginia. My heart says It's difficult to go on the road and play that nooner and just be traveling and, have another letdown spot coming off of the last 2 games that they've played. My heart says West Virginia, so I'm going to take West Virginia. But my head is absolutely unable to defend taking the Mountaineers. My head is saying it's clear that TCU and the Frogs are the better team. Absolutely clear. My heart says this is college football. This is noon in Morgantown. Let's go Country Roads.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing here that we should mention, and we talked about it a little bit in some of what TCU did when they beat Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
They've played pretty good defense this year. Their defense has been a lot better than expected. They're a good tackling team. They're a good tackling team. They're better in pass coverage than you might expect. And I just think for the style of offense that West Virginia runs, that's not a great matchup for them. I think this game features a lot of big hitters for TCU.
Sure.
I think a fair amount of the shorter stuff for West Virginia gets bottled up. That's just, that when you go up against a good tackling team, that tends to happen in this style of, short passes and whatnot.
Right.
I can't account for the random 4 turnover game that's going to happen for TCU at some point. I cannot account for that. But
by the way, I am not going to toot my own horn if West Virginia wins this game because I have not provided any evidence to support my claim.
I get it.
Yeah.
To me, this feels like 41-21 TCU.
Sure. Totally.
41-21. So we disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Also, high noon on ABC, Notre Dame against Syracuse. In the JMA, as the cool kids call it. 3 points in favor of Syracuse, Dan.
Yeah.
As you might notice from this point spread, Vegas thinks these teams are dead even. Before I even saw the point spread, I think I said to you, or I said to somebody, maybe it was a radio hit or something, that these 2 teams were about even as well. This game is almost certain to be 24-20 in one direction or another. I don't know which one. No idea. 24-20 is going to be your final score. Take it to the bank. If you can bet on that exact score, bet on that exact score. I don't know what kind of odds you can get. I will look it up. But if you want scoring, go watch the game we just talked about, the TCU West Virginia one. Don't watch this game because this is going to be slow. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be 2 teams that have the ball 4 or 5 times a half. That's what this game is. It's exactly what this game is. The template here, again, I emphasize, Dan. I'm feeling this very passionately.
I love
the template here. If you watch this game, each team is going to get the ball 10 times. They're going to get the ball 10 times. Neither defense is particularly strong against the run, so we're going to see a lot of that. Garrett Schrader's probably the X factor, but Sean Tucker, and whatever Syracuse decides to do with them, that will be what determines this game. They only gave him the ball 10 times against Clemson. Why? I don't know. I guess they just felt like it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he pissed somebody off in practice or what happened, but they have 5 rushes, 5 passes. Thanks for coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I would presume they're going to give him the ball a little bit more in this game. They're not going to do that again. But whatever overthink Express was going on against Clemson, as long as they get away from that, they'll be fine.
Okay.
I would feed him early. I would feed him often. I think that could be enough to just win the field position game and back Notre Dame up, even if they're not converting it into points. Notre Dame is very limited with how they can beat you right now. They're very limited with how they can beat you. That being said, I still think you got to go points here because these are 2 teams that are going to play a rock fight. If you're giving me points, I don't care where it is. I don't care who's playing. I don't care what the situation is. There are not going to be a lot of points in this game. The over-under is 47. Bet the under, take the points, be glad that you did. Watch the game, enjoy it. Don't have any expectations on the offensive side. That's my prediction.
I think Syracuse wins this game. I don't think Notre Dame is especially good, and they're sort of one note, and you've talked about this, and I haven't watched every play like you have, but Drew Pine to Michael Mayer. All right, what's next? Well, you've seen our general. That's the photo. That's the presentation. So I'm going to go Syracuse here. I think even though I have my criticisms about how they performed against Clemson, and it's a letdown spot considering the second half of that game and just how close they were, I think Notre Dame is an only okay team because of their lack of a consistent offense and going to a difficult place to play against a good defense. To me, I think it's hard to win on the road. It's even harder to win on the road in a weird place with a good defense. And for all of your absolutely correct takes about Garrett Schrader, would you take Garrett Schrader over Drew Pine? I think you probably
Oh my
would
God,
at this
yeah.
point.
Kidding me? Does he want to come now? Yeah.
So the better quarterback and a good defense at home. Yeah, I'm going to go Cuse here.
I'm taking the points. I said 24-20. It's like, it's going to be somewhere in that range. It's going to be like 24-20, 24-23, something stupid.
Yep.
And so I just feel like if you're giving me points in a setup where there's going to be a very, very, very close fourth quarter, which this is, again, destined to have, take the points.
Yep.
But I don't know who wins. Other games here at noon that I will just list off, Dan. Tell me if you've got any insight into any of these five. Arkansas -3.5 at Auburn. Oklahoma -1 or 2, or maybe it's Iowa State -1 or 2. It's been going back and forth here. Basically a pick'em between Oklahoma and Iowa State. We've got Georgia Tech at Florida State. Florida State favored by 24, big number. We've also got Miami -2.5 against Virginia.
God.
And if you've got any hot takes on Boston College, -8 on the road at UConn.
I like UConn plus points there. What is there about Boston College right now that is especially interesting or impressive about the Eagles on the road? They've really been struggling. Miami, so you're taking like a mess versus a bad offense, and so you have Miami coming off of an ugly loss. TVD's status is up in the air right now. I saw Mario Cristobal say that he's gotten a lot better health-wise, supposedly, in the lead up to the game against Virginia. Virginia, I called this a sauna frozen lake situation with how they flipped the narrative, going from this like incredible Robert Anae offense, who's now at Syracuse with Brennan Armstrong, just super explosive, into a nothing offense, an absolutely nothing offense, and a pretty good defense, actually. They brought in Air Force's DC. So still a mess, still losing stupid games, Virginia. So I think I'm going to go with the home team because Miami's just the more creative loser, I guess, if that makes sense. So I guess I'll go Virginia there. Arkansas, Auburn, I'm going to go Arkansas. I'm going to underthink this one. I think they're better, and I don't think Auburn has the offense to take advantage of Arkansas's defensive deficiencies. I like Florida State big against Georgia Tech. And I like Iowa State at home. How about that? I think there is a net crack component. I think Iowa State is not going to go winless in the Big 12, and Oklahoma's defense, with Iowa State's offense running close behind, I think Oklahoma's defense is still the worst thing in this game. I mean, even when they were back at full strength with Dylan Gabriel back on offense, how many points did the defense give up to Kansas? 40-something? 42?
Right.
So I don't think they've solved defense, and I don't think they will during the year this year. So, look, Iowa State's offense against what is probably a below average or bad defense is still only capable of scoring like 23 points, but I have them 23-17 at home in Ames.
I'm inclined to go Auburn because I think the Hogs are really bad on defense, and I think Auburn will be able to score here. So I take Auburn plus the points. I take Oklahoma outright.
Okay.
The fall off that Bill Connolly described to us when we had him on is dramatic and confusing to his spreadsheets. Iowa State has also been very inconsistent, as you noted rightfully on the Wednesday show that we did yesterday. They haven't won a Big 12 game yet. So I'm going Oklahoma, if only because I'm still in denial about how bad Oklahoma has suddenly become. I agree with you, Florida State big over Georgia Tech. The Miami-Virginia game, I have no idea. I'm not even going to bet. I'm going to pick. I don't know. No idea. Let's go to the afternoon slate here.
Can I give you a counterpoint on the Auburn pick?
Sure.
May I, the Ombuds, Dan? And this might change your pick. It might. I'm going to see. Auburn's offense is just behind in terms of points per drive.
Don't say it.
Indiana's.
Don't say it.
Indiana's offense. So Auburn is striving to be Indiana-esque.
Why is this line not higher then?
Because Arkansas is a mess on defense. But the teams that have been able to take advantage of Arkansas's defense have been strong offenses. Who has taken advantage of Arkansas's defense this year? I can pull up their schedule, but I don't recall like a nothing team taking advantage. Right now, Arkansas lost to Texas A&M, but only gave up 23 points and was a doink away from winning that game. They gave up 40 to Mississippi State, and they gave up 49 to Alabama. Otherwise, if we don't view Auburn and their offense in terms of where those teams are offensively, I don't know, man. Have fun.
Do you want to do another Tiger Hog bet? Another face painting bet?
No, but you can only view the results of said bet. Verballers.com, brought to you by Dan's Tiger Face Paint, to be featured on Thursday of this week. So probably the day you're listening to this. I'm going to be doing our Q&A episode, full video, full HD in Tiger Face Paint. Children's Tiger Face Paint.
But you can talk in detail about the text message you had to send.
Oh my God. I'll read it out loud to our Verballers.
To set this up. All right.
Yeah.
Afternoon slate. The big one is at 3:30 on CBS. It is Florida. It is Georgia. It is in Jacksonville, and Georgia is a 22-point favorite. They call it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. However, if you listen to the show that we did yesterday, it used to be that officially. They officially abandoned it like 15 years ago, maybe longer, I guess, 2006, whatever that is, 16 years ago. Quick math. Because of some alcohol incidences, you might expect from the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. But did you know that the student governments have now united on the Florida and Georgia side and have started referring to this game as the War for the Oar?
The War for the Oar.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
The winning team takes home an oar.
All right.
Do we throw the records out in a war for the oar?
You have to. You always have to throw the records out.
Get out of here.
I want to say Stetson Bennett used that exact term in a presser this week. Got to throw the records out.
The dogs are actually, if I could take a little bit of a knee here and explain, we talk about efficiency metrics and analytics and all this stuff. It probably feels like we're cherry picking. To be clear, we are, to support our narratives wherever we see fit. But Georgia's a really good example this year of how some of the numbers work together. Bunch of the stuff that we talk about. So Georgia, on average, runs 72 offensive plays per game, which is like top 30 for all FBS teams. They're only averaging 11 drives per game, which is very low. So what does that mean? Think about that for a second. What does that mean, right? You can do the math if you want, but it means Georgia's been really good at putting longer drives together. That must mean they're not going 3 and out. Indeed, they're not going 3 and out. Almost never go 3 and out. It must mean they control the clock. It also means that they have the most time of possession among any Power 5 team. All these things kind of work together, which is all to say that Georgia is crazy efficient on offense. And in this game against Florida's defense, which is not very good, they should be able to do pretty much whatever they want. I have no issue with Florida's team as a whole with the way that Billy Napier is trying to put it together. I think it will get there in due time. It is certainly not there on the defensive side of the ball, at least not yet. And not ready for prime time against this Georgia team. Georgia's going to be able to move the football. Caveat is this.
Please.
De facto national championship game.
For Florida.
De facto national championship game for Florida, yes.
To play spoiler.
De facto national championship game. You know how I feel about that. I'm closing my eyes here. I'm very into this.
I know.
You know how I feel about the de facto national championship game.
But isn't that generally
terrifies
speaking?
Me, Dan.
I know,
terrifies me.
Isn't that generally speaking a home game though? Obviously not a
No.
Okay.
It could be a rivalry game.
Okay, Nooch. Okay.
De facto national championship game. Does that factor into your thinking at all?
No, not in the slightest. That's okay. If it were in Gainesville, if this matchup were in Gainesville, yes, of course. Because I'm a big believer in frenzy, Ty.
Even the real national championship game is a nooch.
I know, but when you say de facto, that means, when I think back to like all of the actual powers, like when LSU under Joe Burrow, when USC with Matt Lyon, all those teams where like they're going to get a team's best shot at home. Yeah. Right? Where you're just like, you're sleeping in your own bed. You're more familiar with the ins and outs of the stadium, the topography of the field. You're getting the crazy, shared tunnel situation if you're playing at Michigan or Washington or wherever. Like that to me is the defining characteristic of the de facto national championship.
Do you think, though, I mean, we've had a couple of these games now for Florida.
Yeah.
Where it's clear, if you look at the numbers that I just described, many of the stuff on paper in the spreadsheets and the analytics and the efficiency, all that crap, it's clear that Florida's best games have been against the best teams on its schedule. They beat Utah week 1. Again, week 1, maybe we kind of look past that a bit as a rounding error, given the nature of week 1 every season, but still a good win.
Also, Utah's been pushed around a bit.
Utah's been pushed around, but, a good win nonetheless. They were close against Kentucky. They lost that game at home, but lost at Tennessee only by 5. Lost to LSU a few weeks ago. That was also a close game. These are good teams.
Sure.
That I just described. It's also been a minute since Georgia played anybody of note, right? I go back to the halcyon days of week 1, 49-3 over your Oregon Ducks, maybe also a bit of a rounding error of sorts. But, like, is there a world in which Florida comes out hot, Florida's the best team Georgia has seen in a while, and it takes them a while to get into the groove? They don't get the ball a whole lot per game. They still win, but 22 is hard to cover because of just the way they play offense.
For sure. For sure there's a world in which that exists. Florida, right? Well, the way you describe Florida, going back and forth with Tennessee, going back and forth with LSU, 2 clearly decent top 15 teams at the very least, is Florida's a terrific sparring partner.
Yeah.
Florida is great rehearsal. I don't know if you watched rehearsal, by the way, on HBO. One of the most uncomfortable bits of production ever produced. Do you know about the show? That can be on our Q&A show.
Never saw it. No.
Oh my God, Nathan Fielder. We'll have a conversation. Okay. When you have a playmaker like Anthony Richardson when you've run the ball like Florida has done, and when Georgia has struggled themselves on offense at times along the offensive line, sort of fits and starts, Stetson Bennett hasn't fully looked like himself, a receiver hasn't emerged in the mold of some of the guys. I mean, Brock Bowers is terrific. Kenny McIntosh has been very good out of the backfield, but the ways in which Georgia's offense has put teams in a bind is not as impressive as probably the past couple iterations of the Dogs. So I have, and once again, what did you say the line was?
22.
Yeah, I have Florida covering that. I still think it's close at halftime-ish, and Georgia just wears them down and comfortably wins, but comfortably wins in the 31-17, 33-17 kind of mold, and the Gators cover.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I don't see 22 is a big number.
It's a big number.
It's a really big number. Again, in a rivalry game. And Florida may not be anything special, but Florida is the best team Georgia's played in a while. Agreed. And they have played well against teams that seemingly are better than them. They've been punching up pretty well.
Yeah. It's tough, though, when Florida hasn't really played a complete game and we're at Halloween.
No, well, we forget about these.
That's tough because that means the Gators have the potential to lose as 45-13, right? They have the potential to lose that, and you can say Georgia hasn't gotten its act together, this guy hasn't emerged, the defense isn't as good. All of those can be true. But also, this could be that wake-up moment where, like, did you forget about us kind of Georgia Day? That's the issue with taking the points in a matchup like this, because we know Georgia's ceiling when they're fully operational. Do you have a current go-to cocktail, by the way, in honor of it not being, like, to make for yourself or to order out? Not just a drink on the rocks. Or not just a beer, of course.
Gosh, it's been a while.
Cocktail of the moment.
Cocktail of the moment. Cocktail of the moment would probably be just a straight up Jack and Coke.
Really? Super basic.
Yeah.
Like a Delta Upsilon special.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a good answer for this. I made one for a friend who came over. It was it was just in a bind and I had to put something together. I had a pineapple spindrift, cheap tequila, a little bit of lime, and a little bit of simple syrup, And I was just most proud of the name I gave it on the fly, the Don Flamenco, in honor of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Even though Don Flamenco, not from Mexico, I believe he's from Spain. I was still the Don Flamenco is a great sounding cocktail. Next game.
Next game, 3:30 on Fox. Oklahoma State versus Kansas State, Dan. Sometimes in this business, you have no idea.
Most of the time for us, but yeah.
Most of the time. No idea. Scale of 1 to 10. 1 least confident. 10 most confident.
Oh.
Big old goose egg. Big old goose egg. I have no idea who's winning this game. It feels so even to me, I'll flip a coin.
Yeah?
I also think it might be the best game of the afternoon block because of that uncertainty. Have you seen an update on Adrian Martinez?
I have not, which is very strange to say. I've never used this phrasing before on the show or in life at any moment. Man, I wonder what Will Howard's status is. I think he's playing. Or good to play in this game. I don't know. I haven't seen Adrian Martinez updates. But I do know about the universe and how the universe operates. And the universe operates in such a way that says Oklahoma State with a comeback win over Texas, an always emotional win for the Pokes. And then they travel to Manhattan, Kansas to try and tackle a tiny, diminutive running back who torches everybody. I'm going to go with Kansas State here pretty confidently.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, what scares me about Oklahoma State is how many big plays they give up, especially in an even matchup like this, which, of course, how the universe works. Mm-hmm. These are the types of games that are won on those margins, where it's a big play that really sets it apart, or it sets the margin here for victory. That I think K-State's got a high enough floor, even with Will Howard, that they can still generate those plays against Oklahoma State. I am also worried about that emotional letdown after the Texas game.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried.
It's worthwhile to be worried about Mike Gundy on the road, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm looking at the recent matchups, and Oklahoma State has won 3 in a row. So Chris Kleiman has been owned by Mike Gundy. Road or home, I think the year has come. I don't know.
I'm with you. Some other games here in that 3:30 block. I'm going to list a bunch off. We're not going to go into detail with all of these, but trying to be complete and give you the full picture for what goes on in this afternoon block. Wake Forest -3.5 against Louisville. Illinois -7.5 versus Nebraska. Oregon, your Oregon Ducks, -17 against Cal Golden Bears. Cincinnati -1 against UCF. We've got Mizzou on the road at South Carolina. South Carolina favored by 3.5. Rutgers on the road, 2-score dog against Minnesota. And then we've got Northwestern versus Iowa. Iowa favored by 11, which is wild. I originally wrote down the wrong over-under that I gave to you. I said it was 31, which would have been nuts. It is still egregiously low at 37.5 points. Not the lowest we've seen from Iowa this season. But that is your list of like 7 additional games, Dan.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on any of those?
Of course, Ty. I don't like Louisville all that much, but the game's in Louisville. I like Wake here. Illinois against Nebraska. This is the exact type of team that should comfortably beat Nebraska. So I wish the game were at home because Illinois' defenses perform better at home, as most teams' defenses do, but I still like Illinois here. Oregon big over Cal, who, I mean, usually the defense is better than the offense, and it's better than the offense this year. Defense is not excellent this year. We're still talking about a Cal program who lost to Colorado. I'm just not in on Cal. Their offensive line is so bad. This should be a net crack game for Oregon's complete lack of pass rush, and I just think they're going to run away with this one. The first Oregon-Cal game to be like before 5 p.m. since like 2008, though. It's usually a night game. Cincinnati-UCF, I think I like Cincy, but the line seems very weirdly low to me. Yeah, but I think they'll be able to.
I like Cincy. I think they're underrated, but I agree. And I did see that there's some sharp action coming in on UCF here, which I don't fully understand. I'm with Cincinnati on this one.
It seems like it's injury scuttle then probably. So to my eyes, Cincinnati. Ben Bryant did come back last week. Northwestern will beat Iowa because that's all Northwestern can ever manage to do. I had heard from a former Northwestern player, the reason why Northwestern has owned Kirk Ferentz in Iowa the way that they have is supposedly I think Pat Fitzgerald got hurt against Iowa or something during his playing career. There's something Inigo Montoya, I was getting very emotional there, about Pat Fitzgerald in Iowa, that he always gets the cats up, that if nothing else, they can make Iowa feel terrible.
He is blood feud, yeah.
There's a weird Pat Fitzgerald blood feud, with Iowa. Mizzou, South Carolina. South Carolina's better. Mizzou's offense is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. So I'm going with South Carolina. A bit of a letdown spot after the win against A&M, but I still think it's an evening game, right? It's 4 p.m. Eastern is what you have down here.
Yep.
Rutgers, Minnesota. Ooh, buddy. Ooh, buddy.
Brother.
Ooh, brother. I think this should be a net crack moment for Minnesota, but I don't know. Can you build the whole plane out of Mo Ibrahim successfully ever?
We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
So I guess the game's in Minneapolis.
Game is in Minneapolis.
I guess Minnesota, but I hate it.
Give me Louisville plus 3.5 over Wake. I think this is a field goal game one way or the other. This is a 3-point game last year. And Louisville actually put in a pretty good defensive showing against Pitt a week ago. They're easy to overlook. I'm going Louisville. I want Louisville in that game plus the points. I guess I'm on Illinois over Nebraska.
Yeah.
I guess. I think Nebraska's run defense is going to have some trouble. Beyond that, outside of the Cincinnati game, I don't really have leans on any of these other matchups. I would also go Northwestern plus 11.
I hesitate to talk about what Pitt results mean given the state of their offensive line.
Moving on. Late games.
Yeah.
7 p.m. Kentucky on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 12.5, Dan. Can we take a knee again? Can we just do a little bit of real talk here?
I do my show standing up, so I'm raising up my foot, putting it on my chair like Captain Morgan. Not a sponsor could be. Continue.
Tennessee realized 2 weeks ago that now it can date supermodels.
Okay.
That's what happens when you beat Alabama, right? 15 years in the makings. All these demons have suddenly been exorcised. More importantly, they're still unbeaten now. They still have a shot at the division, at the conference, at the playoff, at the national championship. I can speak from personal experience here, as you know.
Yeah.
But when you date supermodels, the risk moving forward is that you only want to date supermodels for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's like flying first class. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
a lifestyle.
Who I am now. Yeah.
It's a lifestyle
that
you get used to very quickly.
Yeah. I wish I could fly first class. Ugh.
With all due respect to the Kentucky Wildcats, Tennessee's got its eyes on that game next week, baby. In Athens. They're
you can
thinking
say the same for Georgia, right?
Maybe you could. Although I don't think they're looking past Florida. That's more of a rivalry spot. But Tennessee is looking at that game next week saying, oh, baby. This is who we are now. This is who we are. They're trying not to stare, but it's kind of hard not to. You ever get caught looking, Dan? You got caught looking.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tennessee, I fear in this matchup, might get caught looking ahead to Georgia.
I mean, it is a rivalry in its own right. Battle for the barrel, right? Tennessee whiskey, bourbon whiskey in Kentucky. Come on.
Sure, but it ain't Georgia.
I know. Georgia. The problem with liking Kentucky in this one is there is a very specific way in which Tennessee is vulnerable, and that's through the air with how beat up their secondary is, and that pass rush hasn't been all that consistent, and I just don't think Kentucky is built for that specifically. I like Will Levis. I like a couple of the receivers that have stepped up early on in the season, but the passing game seems to have gone away some. So I think I'm going Tennessee because I don't think they're overlooking Kentucky. Those two teams never overlook each other. So I think they win this game by 17 to 20 points.
This is such a look ahead spot.
Okay.
Such a look ahead spot. You're right. They don't typically overlook one another. But Tennessee has not been in this spot for a good long time, Dan.
I hear you.
It goes against everything that I stand for as a college football fan to bet on Tennessee here, minus whatever, 12.5. That's a big number. There are other podcasts out there. There are other YouTube channels out there. They'll give you the full rundown on the stats, on the X's and O's. What else? The tendencies, all of that. I am talking about raw. I am talking about carnal emotion, the stuff that really makes this sport tick. The reason you are subscribed to this podcast, among others.
Your hair.
My hair.
Your beautiful head of hair.
It is all the stuff that makes this sport the best, the most unpredictable in the world. Even Josh Heupel said it this week. There needs to be a sense of urgency in this game. They don't want to look ahead. Kentucky is coming off a bye. They are ready for this. Tennessee's already got its eyes on next week. Kentucky plus 12.5. Lock of the week.
Wow.
Lock of the week.
Going into Neyland.
Let's go. Let's go, Cats. Will Levis, first round pick.
Really strong defense for Kentucky, so that would be the case that they can just slow this game down enough and get off the field. But, all right. Your mileage may vary.
7:30 ABC, Michigan State on the road at Michigan. Also a 22-point line. 22.5 to be exact. Big time rivalry. Do we throw the records out in this one as well?
For the Paul Bunyan Trophy, of course.
Throw it out. Michigan State won this game last season. It was in East Lansing. You got to believe that Michigan wants revenge on little brother.
Oh, Ty.
Gotta believe it.
Disrespect.
Gotta believe it. I would love to envision a world in which this is close, but, this is a Tracy Chapman for me, man. Give me one reason.
They're healthier, Michigan State.
Give me another reason.
They beat Wisconsin?
Yeah, I need a different reason than that. That doesn't count.
Despite being bad some years, they beat Michigan in weird ways.
So you're going Michigan State plus 22 and a half.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that. I'm just saying if you want Tracy Chapman, give me a reason to stay here.
No.
I'm just telling you.
No.
Rocky Lombardi has beaten Michigan. I'm telling you the way, if we're talking about the universe.
Rocky Lombardi, our one true God on the podcast. Yeah.
With these rivalry games, that was a Joe Milton game, I believe, that year. Last year was J.J. McCarthy with the fumble, which is not the entire reason Michigan lost that game. And it was also Kenneth Walker, who's apparently a good NFL running back now. Is that true for the Seahawks? Yeah.
Kenneth Walker the third, mind you.
Excuse me. There have been two ahead of him. It's a big number, but the way Michigan wins and the way Michigan State loses, Michigan State can stop the run at times. The problem is the passing game. So then, okay, do you think Roman Wilson and Ronnie Bell and Cornelius Johnson, Donovan Edwards can, as an all-purpose guy, get loose? Blake Corum, who, by the way, our friend Ben Golliver yells at me all the time for not waxing poetic about Blake Corum and saying, "Oh my God, he's the smallest guy in the field." Okay, relax. I think Michigan wins this game very comfortably. I think in terms of this rivalry, it's a neck crack game. There's nothing it's not Ohio State the next week. I think Michigan wins this game much in the same way they did against Penn State. I have Michigan winning it 41-17.
I can't believe you talk this much about this game.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
What the hell have you gained over the years saying Michigan's easily going to beat Michigan State, no matter how down or weird Michigan State's season is going?
I can't believe you spent all of that breath, all of your precious instrument talking about this stupid game. You got to be kidding me.
Xavier Henderson.
You got to be kidding me.
There's guys. I'm just telling you, teams are not what they are in mid-September in late October. I'm not saying Michigan State is that. I'm not saying Michigan State has solved the issues that have plagued them all season long. I am saying they've gotten a little bit better as they've gotten a little bit healthier. But I still I cannot make the case. But I'm just saying, if you are a Michigan fan, be more scared than you currently are. That's all.
The strongest part of Michigan State's defense is against the run. And that isn't even that strong, Dan.
No, I know.
It isn't even that strong. I think this is another pinata game. We talked about the Penn State-Michigan thing earlier. This is a pinata game. They're going to beat Sparty over the head until they break open, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Only hesitation I have here is that Michigan plays slowly. That is their MO.
So they don't separate.
They don't separate. Sometimes those teams have a hard time covering bigger spreads, hitting the over. Michigan has not really had that trouble. They've been good against the spread, but they are 120th in terms of hitting the over. So maybe give that a look. I got to go Michigan, though, man. I have no reason to go Michigan State.
It's Halloween weekend.
I don't care.
I'm saying spookier things. What happens? There goes an issue with the snap tie.
Couple other games
here. An issue with
here.
the fumble. I just think there's something spooky bets about it.
I will dress up like a Spartan.
Hold on. Let's get to the bottom of this. What are you going to do if Michigan State covers this game?
If Michigan State covers, I'll dress up like a Spartan. I don't know how to do that, but maybe I'll just go sleeveless on one of our Bruin shows.
I'll come up with something a little bit better. Continue.
7:30 SEC Network. Ole Miss minus 2.5 on the road at Texas A&M. I have a great idea for this game.
Okay.
I'm very proud of this idea. Hear me out.
I'm ready.
What if neither team passed?
Okay.
Just 70 rushing attempts. At the end, we see who does better.
I would probably take Ole Miss in that scenario, I guess.
Just see what they can do with it. 70. You get 70. We'll count down from 70. New rules, kind of like a spring scrimmage. Who gets the most yards? That's the team that wins.
Right.
I would watch that. Would you watch that? I don't think I'll watch this game at present. But if we modified the rules and said you get 70, you get 70, go.
So it's just Red Rover. They just decide to play
kind of like
SEC Red Rover. Yeah. In this matchup specifically, I think there is 1-2-3 Cancun potential for Texas A&M, and you saw the suspensions this week. I think it's 3 or 4 guys suspended. The freshmen. There's a little bit of Miami infecting A&M at this point that has me worried. So I'm gonna say Ole Miss, even with the idea that they are probably overrated, as was seen last week when they jump out to a huge lead and then just get demolished by LSU. I still think Ole Miss probably has its head on a bit straighter at this moment. So, even at Kyle Field, man, second straight road games hurt me and haunt me.
This is destined to be a really close game.
Of course.
This is destined to be a really close game. A&M is many things. They're not getting blown out. Not by anybody. They're playing close games because the defense is still pretty good. The offense is bad. I mean, maybe they've made some strides when they give Devin A-Chain the ball, but they can't get the passing game sorted out. I mean, it's just kind of a nightmare. And there is 1-2-3 Cancun potential. So I'm with you on that front. I don't like the second straight road game, though, for Ole Miss. So I'm going to go Ole Miss. It's -2.5 right now. I will be honest, if it goes up to 3, I might consider going A&M.
I don't hate you for it. Yeah.
I just think this is much the way I was sold on Notre Dame Syracuse being a bit of a rock fight. I think this might be a bit of a rock fight that's very close in the 20s, that type of game.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Some other games here real quick. 5 in the nightcap. I've got USC -15 over Arizona, though I'll be rooting like hell for Arizona. I think that'll be a fun game.
Nighttime in Tucson. Didn't affect Oregon. But USC a lot more beat up on defense, that linebacker especially. Okay, next.
Yep, potentially. 7:30, Baylor at Texas Tech. Texas Tech -2.5. Lock up Texas Tech for me.
Wow.
Lock of the week.
Kind of like the Tech defense. Kind of. It's not bad. And I think that could be a difference here. 8 p.m. ACC Network. It is Pitt. It is North Carolina. Carolina favored by 3.5, and ultra quiet 6-1. Only lost to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They close out the season after this game. This is what they got: Virginia, Wake, Georgia Tech, excuse me, and North Carolina. Kind of feeling 10-2.
You're kind of feeling 10-2
for North Carolina, so I'll go Carolina in that matchup. Arizona State over Colorado. Let's go ASU. And Stanford versus UCLA, 10:30, Pac-12 After Dark. I'm going to go Stanford. Why not?
On a winning streak.
All
right. I think I like Baylor against Texas Tech, though I hate that pick because Baylor on the road this year has been poo-poo. I think Texas Tech is just going to be too up and down, so I'm going to go with a slightly
it's a Joey
more
Maguire
consistent...
Bowl, though. Joey Maguire Bowl.
I hear ya. ASU Colorado, I guess ASU big because there's no reason to take Colorado. Pitt North Carolina. North Carolina is going to have a field day on defense, which is not something I say all that often. But once again, Pitt's offensive line in shambles. So I just wish I could like Pitt a little bit more, but if they can't run the ball, there's not much going on for the Panthers. And so UCLA Stanford. Stanford's going to try to slow this game down. UCLA coming off of a letdown against Oregon as that top 10 matchup on game day. I think Stanford still is very bad. So I'm going to go UCLA here by 3 touchdowns.
Very quickly, Thursday night action, we got Virginia Tech, a 14-point dog against NC State. We've got Utah. Weird Utah line here Thursday night. Utah favored by 7 over Wazoo. I am tempted to go Wazoo plus the points here.
Defend it.
I don't know if I can.
Okay. Good to know.
But their defense is not bad.
Defense pretty good.
And playing in Pullman's always weird. It's a Thursday night game. I just wonder why the line is so low. I would think it would be higher. So I'm inclined to go Wazoo here at home plus the points.
Yeah, I'm going to go Wazoo as well. I I think Cameron Ward is interesting. He's a playmaker. I still don't know if I love him, but I don't know if I love Utah's defense in this moment. And so Wazoo doesn't run the ball all that well, which seems to be where you can get Utah. But Pullman, a decent defense, and me doubting a little bit Utah, I think I'm going Wazoo here. It's just, you're right. It's an odd line, and I'm going to steer into that. I'm going to steer into the home dog of it all, and I still think Wazoo's pretty decent.
Join me on this Cougar train.
Yeah. Okay. Phrasing. It's okay.
That's all I got, Dan. I think that is most of the at least Power 5 action for this week 9.
Is there anything in the G5 level other than Cincinnati that interests you?
Other than that,
I mean, well, who does Tulane have this week, Ty? Show some respect. I'm putting you on the spot. I know. I've already taken UConn here. Rice can get to 5 wins with a win over Charlotte, who now has an interim coach with Will Healy gone. That's interesting to me. Rice favored by 16.5 there.
Yeah, big number. Big number for the Owls.
Yeah, you mentioned, oh my God, UMass and New Mexico State are playing. How about this one? North Texas, a little frisky. Western Kentucky trying to get bowl eligible again.
Yeah.
That to me is interesting at 2:30. Boise State should win comfortably and get to 5-0 in the Mountain West with a win over Colorado State, who's actually won a couple. Marshall Coastal tie.
Yeah.
On the NFL Network, by the way.
On the NFL Network?
On the NFL Network, according to ESPN's schedule page, Marshall and Coastal Carolina, 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. Otherwise, I don't know. I looked through this the other day. Fresno, San Diego State, I wish were a bigger deal, but teams are beat up and all over the place on offense.
That could be a terrible football game.
Could be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, just drop me some big, stanky, I love the word turgid, drum and fife.
All right, we got 3 games.
Oh my God, the biggie, finally!
Finally, Georgetown, 1-6 Georgetown. Nobody wins any games in this league.
I know.
Georgetown, 1-6 on the road in Easton against your Lafayette Leopards. Also, a very bad losing record at 2-5. Dan, who you got?
They were close last week, Ty. Show some respect. I have Lafayette big.
Lafayette big, I go Georgetown, even away from home. Even away from home. 1 p.m., Colgate. Not the toothpaste, more the football team.
Oh, boo.
2-5 on the road at Bucknell. 1-6. Yeah. Nobody wins. Nobody
Colgate
wins in the Patriot League.
Colgate by 8.
By 8?
Yeah.
I was thinking more 13, but
okay.
I'm also on Colgate.
Is that what your model says?
That is what the model says. That's correct. Yeah. And last but certainly not least,
Dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun. Dun-dun-dun.
Fordham, 6-1. Holy Cross, 7-0. It's the biggin. It is the biggin here. Patriot League Football Week 9. Who you going with? Fordham, the Rams, Holy Cross, the Crusaders.
I'm going with Fordham. Is there a line for this one? Seriously, is there an actual line?
You're putting me on the spot. I'll have to see if I can find it.
I'm going to see. Okay, Fordham versus Holy Cross, odds and live scores. According to the Action Network, it doesn't look like there's a current line.
There will be by kickoff.
There will be by kickoff.
Yeah.
But I'm not
A lot of times these don't come out until later.
Gotcha. Okay. Against the spread this year, Holy Cross has been 4-2 as a favorite. Fordham 1-4 as a favorite. As a dog,
Vegas just can't figure them out.
Vegas does not have a read on either of these teams. So 5-2 against the spread, Holy Cross. 3-4 against the spread, Fordham. So with the points, I'm going to take Fordham here. Let's go.
Crusaders at home. Give me Crusaders.
Okay, fair enough.
That is it for week 9. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. Don't forget, if you are out and about, College Football Blitz. We talk about every week. It is the NFL Red Zone equivalent, but for college football and on the radio. So you can hear the scoring as it happens by the hometown radio announcers, courtesy of our friends over at Learfield. You get 56 minutes of hometown play-by-play coverage every hour. Just 3 minutes. 1, 2, 3. Holding up 3 fingers. 3 minutes of commercial breaks per hour. 12 hours in total of football every Saturday from 12 noon Eastern to midnight Eastern. It's available for free on the Varsity Network app, or if you've got SiriusXM ESPNU Radio Channel 84, hosted by our friend Stephen Hartzell.
Yeah.
Stevie Speedrun, as you know.
You insist. You insist Stevie Hartzell does not wear a diaper. He's not juicing. But, man, I don't know how he would do it otherwise. It's great.
Great programming. They do an awesome job. That is it. We went through more games today in this Week 9 show than I think we ever have before. We literally, quite literally, announced all of the Power 5 action. So now you know when everything's being played, what windows are important.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say that as a duo, as a team, we collectively decided to step up?
I'm fighting for something that's real for the first time in my life.
Step up.
I had to leave the tail end of that audio in because it was so dramatic, and it was about Channing Tatum popping and locking. I loved it.
Yeah. I still like my dragon, which is very loud and didn't play. I still like my dragon. And I had plans throughout the course of this, I know you're not a Game of Thrones guy,
Yeah.
to use this.
Dracarys.
That's when she tells the dragon to unleash its fire.
Sounds super cool.
I had plans.
It sounds so cool.
They invented their own language for the show. It is cool.
So cool. That's all.
For that guy over there, my good friend, Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, enjoy your Step Up, your Slay the Dragon, your Samoyed Saturday. Whatever you're into, let us know. solidverbal@gmail.com. Hit subscribe, hit follow, be it on the podcast and or on any of our social media feeds or YouTube channel and the like. Hope you have a good weekend of watching college football. Don't forget to give the Reverb line a call at 408-VERBAL-1. His name is Dan Rubenstein. My name is Ty Hildenbrandt. We'll talk to you all soon. Stay solid.
Peace.